I'm Scott Newell. I'm the Alfalfa Outreach Specialist here at UW-Madison. And today I'm going to be talking a little bit about what to expect in 2024, given the drought that we had in 2023. So I'm sure you all have seen this many times at this point. This is Wisconsin's drought outlook in 2023. So this shows the percentage of land area that was in various pieces of drought. Obviously, you know, we can see that that's a fairly abnormal year for us. Lots of severe drought through many parts of the state. And so, you know, maybe you're wondering what that means for alfalfa going into next year. Of course, alfalfa being a perennial crop, you have to worry about the following year. It's not just a reset every single year. So with alfalfa, of course, being a perennial crop, there's kind of two stories there. One is your new seedings from 2023. The other is established alfalfa that was established before 2023. So I'm going to cover the established alfalfa first. So last year was not necessarily business as usual for us from a weather standpoint, but for alfalfa, I would say last year was business as usual. And why do I say that? Well, alfalfa is actually originated in the Middle East, in what is now Iran. That's a semi-arid climate with a dry summer, wetter winter. And so alfalfa kind of evolved in this environment where it didn't have water for decent portions of the year. A lot of the breeding to bring yield into these very dormant varieties that entered into the upper Midwest back in the 1900s, a lot of that breeding has brought in some of this drought tolerance as it's brought along with it some of the yield traits and other things that we've wanted in our modern cultivars. So the drought in 2023 being dry in the summer but wet on both ends is kind of exactly what alfalfa evolved around. To kind of push this point a little bit further, I wanted to show you some research from UC Davis, where I actually did some time working on a master's degree there. And out in California in the West, water use, of course, is very important. So they've been looking at how to decrease water use in alfalfa. But we can kind of take that and turn it around and say, what does alfalfa do when it doesn't have water? You know, we weren't imposing that drought, but actually the drought that they were imposing there, where they cut off water in June, start it back up in September, October, it's really similar to the drought that we had in 2023 in the Midwest. So lacking water, alfalfa goes dormant. You can see that top picture is a field in June when the water had been cut off. Doesn't look like there's a whole lot there. That same field in September when they turn the water back on is down at the bottom there. So you can see alfalfa recovers quite well. And the roots go really deep. A lot of you with established fields experienced that this year, that alfalfa was able to scavenge water even when you know, your grass stands weren't necessarily doing too great. The most important piece of the research that they've been doing out west for all of you, though, with this is that there was very minimal long-term impact on the yield of the field in the next season following the imposition of a very stringent drought watering regime. So what to do in 2024 with your established alfalfa? It's really going to be very similar to what you would normally do with a stand. We did thankfully get some rain in the fall of 23. Going into the winter, we had periods where we could get some regrowth, get some better root stores going to get through the winter. And you know, just a couple of other things to mention is just being wary of weevil infestations in areas where you had higher weevils last year. You could have more adults that are getting out and being able to lay eggs to infest your stand this year. Otherwise, it's managed pretty much as normal. So I said it's two separate stories. We have established alfalfa, and we have our new seedings that we seeded in 2023. With those new seedings, I'm going to give you a classic answer. It depends. And we use that answer so much in extension, I'm going to add a little trademark there. Normally, that gets a few laughs from the room. That's about the first time in this presentation that something funny happened. So hopefully y'all are laughing at home. So again, here's that drought series. Let's see how that lines up with our establishment phase. So spring seeding happened in May. We actually had some moisture in the ground. Many of us had too much moisture in the ground, so maybe you weren't able to get out exactly when you wanted to, but a lot of times folks were planning to moisture. Fall establishment, though, we were looking at very heavy drought in a lot of areas. So really your spring seeding and your fall seeding last year is it's going to depend on your planting timing. It's going to depend on the drought in your particular area. It's going to depend on your particular soil types. It's really difficult to say. What I will say here is there's not a whole lot of research into when established alfalfa can, or when a newly seeded alfalfa plant can have water cut off and still, you know, thrive in the following season. And that's just because that practice wouldn't really be advantageous anywhere out west. So normally they fall seed there and they have control of the water and they have more water at that time of the year. So we don't have a whole lot of information there. Anecdotal wisdom is that about a 3-foot taproot should be, you know, good to get you through that phase of drought. You know, the crown is established well enough that it can take that lack of water. As an example, here's a taproot that I dug up out of Arlington, Wisconsin here in the fall of 23. This was planted direct seeded in the spring of 2023. So that taproot was able to get down about 3 feet, and that stuff did just fine. But of course, other areas, you know, it's going to really depend. So unfortunately, with your new seedings in 2024, what you're going to do, well, you're going to have to go out and you're going to have to actually take stem counts in your field. And that's really for both of these. You're going to, you know, stem counts are going to be your best tool for management going into 2024. I know it's simple. I know it's a little tedious, but it is a really simple strategy to figure out what your best option is going into the next year. So when it comes to stand counts, what you're looking for in established alfalfa is that 40 to 55 stems per square foot. We recommend counting stems in an area of about 2 square feet, making sure that you're counting stems that are 2 inches tall or more, that are green, growing, you know, stuff that's actually going to contribute to yield. And lower than those thresholds may affect your yield long term. So a couple of other things to mention here: if you are below those thresholds, you could interseed some grasses. And if you're interested in doing that, or you're interested in terminating the stand and planting other grasses, we have an annual forage webinar coming up next week that I think might be of interest to you. Autotoxicity is a potential concern if you're looking to replant the stand. Kim Cassidy is going to be talking about that here next. If you are terminating a stand because it's below those thresholds, make sure you're taking advantage of nutrient credits. One publication that I will post in the chat that I wanted to call out from UW Extension is it is successful establishment of summer and spring planted forages. So with that, I'm about at my time here. I know that was quick. If you have any questions, I'll be around to answer some in the chat, and I'm gonna move this over to Kim here in a minute. But thank you so much.